I'll never forget the glare of those stage lights cutting across Adrian Voss's face like a blade. The man stood there in his rumpled button-down shirt, sleeves pushed up to his elbows, looking every bit the quiet veteran of late nights and endless commits. The auditorium at Quantum Freight Systems headquarters in Austin was packed, nearly 800 employees, a handful of wide-eyed venture capitalists streaming live, and screens flashing company metrics across every floor. It was supposed to be our big momentum day, the celebration of closing Series C and landing those federal logistics contracts we'd chased for years. Tyler Brooks, our CEO, sauntered onto the stage like he owned the spotlight. Tailored blazer, perfect smile, the kind of guy who practiced his TED Talk gestures in the mirror. He spent 20 minutes hyping our revolutionary AI-driven routing engine, the secret sauce that made our delivery predictions faster and cheaper than anyone in the industry. Then his tone shifted, dropping into that fake sincerity he reserved for tough announcements. And now, let's talk about the past so we can charge into the future, Tyler said, his voice echoing through the wireless mic. The lights swung left. A harsh spotlight pinned Adrian right there behind the AV equipment. We owe a debt to Adrian Voss for laying the early groundwork. But as we scale, we've got to evolve. Starting today, we're sunsetting Adrian's role to make room for fresh innovation. Let's give him a big round of applause for his service. The room hesitated for a beat. Then came the polite claps, growing into awkward cheers from the back rows. Some people laughed nervously, not fully grasping what they'd just witnessed. A public execution dressed up as corporate evolution. Adrian didn't flinch. No outburst. No plea. He gave one slow, deliberate nod, like he was confirming an equation that had finally balanced. Then he turned and walked off stage without a word, disappearing behind the curtain into the dim hallway lined with server racks. You know that feeling when the air in a room changes? Like the oxygen thins and everything holds its breath? That's what hit me. Most folks went back to their sushi platters and slides about revenue projections, but I couldn't shake it. I'd sat 2 desks away from Adrian for almost 7 years. He was the guy who never chased the spotlight, never forwarded his own Slack messages for credit. But he was the architect, the one who'd coded the optimization engine in the dead hours while the rest of us chased Tyler's ever-shifting deadlines. That engine wasn't some off-the-shelf library. It was bespoke, a masterpiece of algorithms that handled real-time recalibrations for millions of shipments, optimized routes under traffic chaos, and predicted delays with eerie accuracy. It powered every client demo, every investor slide, every government compliance report. And Tyler had just publicly discarded its creator, like yesterday's code review. As the event dragged on, Tyler strutted back to his revenue charts, beaming about our disruptive future. But my mind kept circling back to a throwaway conversation we'd had months earlier over stale breakroom coffee. Adrian had chuckled dryly and said, "Funny how people only hunt for leverage after they've already thrown it away." At the time, I'd brushed it off as typical engineer gallows humor. Now it rang like a warning siren. I should have said something right then. Someone should have. But Adrian was already gone from the stage, and the applause had moved on. What no one realized, not Tyler, not the board, not even most of engineering, was that Adrian had never fully transferred the intellectual property rights. I'd caught glimpses of it in old contracts during a compliance audit a few weeks prior. A conditional licensing clause buried in his original agreement from the company's scrappy startup days. The engine technically remained his unless specific terms were renegotiated. Terms that Tyler's aggressive expansion had blown right past. Adrian still held admin access that afternoon. His badge worked. His credentials opened every endpoint. Tyler had stripped the title in front of a live audience, but the master key was untouched. By Monday, the subtle log entries started appearing, Adrian quietly auditing where his code had been duplicated, rebranded, and deployed without proper attribution. He wasn't sabotaging anything yet. Just watching. Mapping. Preparing. I felt that twist in my gut again. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. 3 weeks before the stage spectacle, I'd been knee-deep in a vendor compliance review for one of our biggest government clients. The new legal intern, fresh-faced, Ivy League suit, zero street smarts, had forwarded me a checklist. Standard stuff, encryption protocols, audit trails, proof of licensing for core components. But halfway down the page, there it was, explicit request for documentation on who held rights to the routing optimization engine. I flagged it immediately and shot it over to Tyler with a note. Licensing verification needed from engineering. Potential red flag. Out of habit, I CC'd Adrian, even though his Slack status had been permanently gray for months. The guy had become a phantom in his own codebase. Tyler's reply pinged back in under 10 minutes. Legacy items handled. No need to involve Adrian anymore. Trust me. Those 2 words, trust me, always set off alarms in tech. Especially coming from a CEO who once claimed on his own podcast to have invented half the concepts our team actually built. That afternoon, I spotted Adrian in the break room, staring at his phone with that trademark stillness, like he was mentally compiling a massive function. Everything okay? I asked, keeping my tone light. He didn't answer right away. Just sipped his black coffee and finally murmured, "Ever watch someone burn down their own house and call it a beautiful sunrise?" The metaphor hung heavy. I shrugged, unsure. He didn't elaborate, but I could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. Later that night, curiosity gnawed at me. I pulled up the original C documents from Quantum Freight's early days, back when we were 12 exhausted engineers in a shared WeWork space trying to fix America's broken freight industry one API call at a time. Most of us had signed boilerplate IP transfer forms. Adrian's agreement was different. It included a rare conditional licensing clause. The engine remained his intellectual property, licensed to the company only under strict terms. Unauthorized commercial use, misattribution of authorship, or employment reclassification without consent could trigger immediate revocation. It was bolded right there in the contract, probably inserted by Adrian himself during negotiations. I leaned back from my screen, a chill running down my spine. Tyler had dismissed legal deep dives on legacy code like they were spam emails. He treated Adrian like obsolete server space taking up room. But that obsolete code still held the keys to the kingdom. What unnerved me most was Adrian's silence. He could have threatened lawsuits, leaked the clause, or bragged in engineering stand-ups. Instead, he waited patiently, giving Tyler every chance to avoid disaster. Like a patient teacher watching a student ignore the warning signs before the test. The office culture at Quantum Freight had shifted hard after Tyler took over. He arrived during the Series A pivot, scarf-wearing visionary with flashy PowerPoints and buzzword salads. He rebranded everything, pushed aggressive timelines, and prioritized demos over stability. The board loved the vision. No one double-checked the cap table's fine print or the original agreements. Adrian, meanwhile, had negotiated quietly years earlier. No fanfare. Just a single-page addendum stapled to his consulting contract granting him a hidden 14% equity stake routed through a generic Delaware trust. The shares didn't vote loudly, but they sat there accumulating value as the company's valuation climbed from millions to billions on the back of his engine. Tyler never noticed. He was too busy bulldozing old processes and claiming credit for his revolutionary platform. Adrian documented everything methodically. Every unauthorized commit, every marketing slide misrepresenting authorship, every investor filing claiming full company ownership of the code under penalty of perjury. Securities fraud territory. He moved like a surgeon, deliberate, precise. While the rest of us chugged energy drinks through sprints, Adrian planted seeds he knew might take years to bear fruit. Control, he once told me quietly, wasn't about shouting. It was about positioning. The investor showcase was scheduled for that fateful Thursday at 11:15 a.m. Tyler had hyped it for months, live-streamed to federal partners, global clients, and a room packed with check-writing VCs. The auditorium was transformed: mood lighting, polished floors, even a custom scent diffuser masking the usual tech office staleness. I sat toward the back, palms sweating, heart hammering. Adrian wasn't physically present, but his shadow loomed everywhere. Tyler took the stage at exactly 11, flashing his signature swagger. Slides clicked through buzzwords: real-time autonomous routing, military-grade predictive analytics, seamless scalability. As the demo launched, the optimization engine at the heart of it, every screen in the auditorium, every live feed, every mirrored device froze simultaneously. Blackout. 3 agonizing seconds of silence. Then white text materialized slowly across every display. Unlicensed. Stolen. Mine. The room's oxygen vanished. Tyler froze mid-sentence. Mouth open but silent. Interns scrambled at the tech table, but nothing responded. Behind the scenes, an automated IP assertion Adrian had filed the night before triggered a clean revocation. Dependencies severed. Pathways unraveled. The engine didn't crash or corrupt, it simply withdrew consent. Investors whispered furiously. A DoD representative stood and exited without a word. Someone in the control room shouted, "Where the hell is Adrian Voss?" I knew exactly where. A quiet booth at a no-frills diner off the highway. Cracked vinyl seats. Bottomless mediocre coffee. Laptop open. Eyes calm. A printed cease and desist beside him. The message on the screens was elegant in its simplicity, proof that ownership wasn't noise. It was time-stamped, signed, irrefutable. The aftermath was chaos wrapped in stunned professionalism. No screaming, no smashed monitors, just dozens of executives pretending this wasn't the costliest public implosion of their careers. Our general counsel, Elena Vargas, paced her glass office, headset glued on, legal pad pages tearing under frantic scribbles. Adrian picked up her call on the second ring from his diner booth. "Adrian, we need to talk," Elena said, voice fraying. He waited patiently. "There's an issue with the engine licensing, specifically Clause 11B in your original agreement," he replied evenly. "Check the last page. Signature line remains blank on any transfer docs." More silence as she pulled files. He followed up calmly, sending a screenshot of the exact clause. Metadata intact. Highlighted in red, unauthorized deployment triggers full revocation. "Is this revenge?" she asked finally, exhaustion bleeding through. "No," Adrian said. "It's mathematics. I'm willing to license it, non-exclusive. Commercial rights. Time-limited. With oversight. Price reflects fair market value given the circumstances." The number he quoted would have made anyone choke. But Elena didn't argue. Without the engine, Quantum Freight was a hollow brand with pitch decks and no product. A billion-dollar valuation built on borrowed foundations. The emergency board meeting convened by evening. No formal invites. Just tense whispers spreading like static. Tyler stood at the head of the polished table. Charisma evaporated. Elena sat stone-faced nearby. They dialed Adrian in audio only. The chairman's voice clipped. "Mr. Voss, you hold 14% via trust." "Correct." "Correct," Adrian replied, tone measured. "You've asserted misrepresentation in IP disclosures and offered licensing terms." Adrian listed them clearly: formal correction to investors acknowledging authorship, binding licensing agreement, and Tyler's immediate removal. Tyler sputtered. This is a witch hunt from a fired employee. You assumed I wouldn't respond, Adrian interjected calmly. You weren't terminated properly under contract terms. The board voted. 5 in favor. 1 abstain. Elena whispered in favor after a long pause. Security escorted Tyler out. His keycard failed at the elevator. He left shaking, sunglasses on indoors like a shield. Adrian ended the call professionally, revised license packet incoming within the hour. No gloating. Just closure. The next morning's rescheduled pitch was sober. No hype. No fog machines. The COO read a flat statement confirming the engine was now properly licensed from its original author, who retained equity stake. Authorship corrected. No spin. Adrian never appeared publicly. No victory posts. No interviews. He resumed quiet routines, early logins, efficient commits, pancakes at the diner. His code hummed back into the stack, reliable as ever. Months later, a junior engineer cleaning Adrian's old desk found an aged sticky note. What they call useless is what they fail to understand. I simply spoke in code. It became an internal proverb. Turned Slack emoji despite HR's efforts. Quantum freight stabilized. Headlines faded. But the lesson lingered. Ownership isn't volume or titles or who holds the microphone. It's knowing where real value begins and holding the receipts when it matters most. Adrian didn't destroy the company. He didn't bankrupt anyone. He simply forced the truth onto paper where everyone could finally read it clearly. In a world that rewards the loudest voices, sometimes the quietest hold the real power. And when the moment comes, they don't need to shout, just to remind everyone who built the foundation. What stays with me is the question, how many quiet geniuses walk among us, holding the keys we assume belong to the spotlight? And what happens when we finally notice?